Story 1. I just want to disappear. Not die, but go somewhere where I will not be recognized or found. I do not even have anything to run from, so people will not understand. I am just tired of all this. Edit. Just listen to Saddle Tramp by Marty Robbins and you will know how I feel. Story 2. Something I occasionally tell people but typically do not bother. Anything about binge eating. It is hard to explain to someone who does not have it because for nearly everyone, eating is a basic thing you barely think about, like breathing. With binge eating disorder, I get hit with a trigger like a craving for a specific food but times a billion. I can ignore it, but it does not go away. It stays in my brain and gets louder and louder over hours or days until it is the only thing I can think about. Until it is so distracting it is hard to even have a conversation. Until it is to the point of, well, I better order whatever it is or I literally will not be able to function at work today. And it is hell because we are bombarded with food ads constantly. It is everywhere when you go out. It is part of nearly every social gathering, and you also have to eat multiple times a day to stay alive. Imagine being an alcoholic and knowing you need to quit, but you also need to have a drink 3 times a day or die. No matter how carefully you explain it, or when I explain that I have had times in my life where I lost over 100 pounds and gained it back because of binge eating disorder, or explain that I am finally able to manage it because a doctor finally listened to me and got me on the correct prescription medication and therapy, and now that I am properly medicated, I still get cravings, but they are so much milder it is comical. It is like the difference between I am literally on fire and I smell smoke in the far distance. There will still be some ignorant person in the comments every time that says, that is not real. Just eat less, you fat monster. Eventually, you just accept that some people are incapable of empathy and understanding and try to ignore it. Story 3. I wish I did not have family, pets, or a boyfriend so I could live my life doing what I want without guilt. I want to travel the world completely alone in a recreational vehicle and live a very reckless life. Story 4. One morning on my way out to work, I rescued a mourning dove whose feet were frozen to a branch of a bush by my kitchen door. I slowly peeled its feet off the branch, and it flew away. The next morning as I left for work, there was a flock of mourning doves in the tree in my yard. There had to be 40 birds, and then they all flew away at once. Who would believe it? Story 5. Sometimes I wonder if what I endured as a child is considered abusive or traumatic. I do not want to tell a psychiatrist or counselor because they might be obligated to send me to an inpatient mental health facility. Story 6. Late at night, while I am in bed around 3 to 4 a.m., I can hear the core of the earth vibrating. This usually happens every few months, about 2 to 3 times during that week, whenever it occurs. Story 7. Behind the face of me being a very successful businesswoman, beneath the mask, I am still like a little girl who is lost and very scared of life in general. Story 8. I don't want kids because I feel like I would be an abusive father. I am not good with family, and I like silence. Forgetting I have a family is concerningly easy for me, and I have to question my own empathy. I ask myself if I was forced to shoot someone, would I even feel anything? It took my sister getting in an accident for me to pick up the phone. Probably because of the trauma I went through, I don't know. People think I have mental health issues too, so maybe I am right. Story 9. I have had lifelong anxiety and depression because of extensive and painful cosmetic medical treatments I underwent from infancy until I was 4 years old. Story 10. You will never understand how soul-crushing it is to have a small penis and how lonely it feels unless you have one. The relentless cruelty of others really broke my spirit for a long time. Story 11. Sometimes I feel like I experience memories from a life I never lived. Specific moments, places, even smells hit me out of nowhere and feel so familiar, but I have no idea where they come from. It's like grief for something that never happened. I have never told anyone because how do you explain that without sounding broken? Story 12. I was in a supposed women's support group run by a licensed clinical social worker in California. Growing up, I suffered extreme physical and emotional abuse from a very neglectful mother who was out of control. She didn't want to take her daughters shopping for clothes, so she just gave us hand-me-downs from her sister's daughters. She threw bras at us and told us to figure them out ourselves. I had no idea how to dress fashionably at all. Imagine my shame and embarrassment when the leader of the group, along with some of the women, asked me, "Don't you know how to look at fashion magazines to dress right?" I was too horrified to know what to do. Several years later, I wish I had reported this woman to her licensing board. But abused people often don't know how to stand up to bullying. I was foolish not to leave then and there. Jody G, you should never have been allowed to treat someone the way you treated me. I will never forgive you. Story 13. I wish I could simply exist without being hassled by a certain administration. My family, while supportive, is largely unaware and even tells me to just get over it. Story 14. I rehearse entire conversations in my head as if they are real events, including the arguments, plot twists, and imaginary comebacks. However, I act surprised when I feel mentally exhausted by noon. Story 15. I never tell anyone if I have a health concern. I cannot stand other people being worried about me when I do not have any of the answers myself. Story 16. I feel guilty for having children because the world seems to be going wrong. I love them and do not want them to suffer. Story 17. There have been times when I was convinced that I could read people's minds. It's not like in movies where I hear their thoughts, but more like I feel what they are thinking as if it were my own thought, but I cannot control it because it is theirs. Before you roll your eyes, I have felt what people were thinking and was correct, verified with them. I have had people pick a number between 1 and 100 and guessed it correctly more than once. Here is the thing, it comes and goes. The most frustrating part is that when I really need it, it usually goes away. It is pretty much a useless ability that I have. Story 18. I am definitely mentally disabled to the point that I cannot work. However, no one understands because I have had a job before. There is no way to afford a diagnosis, and the diagnostic process for women is inadequate. As a result, there is no way to prove it because no one believes what you say unless you have an official diagnosis. It is an endless cycle of misery. Story 19. I think that I do not feel emotions properly. I enjoy being around my children and husband, but I do not feel as attentive, loving, or caring as they deserve. I also wonder if this is connected to having epilepsy, as it may be something that has never worked properly in my brain. Story 20. Being unpleasant on the internet and in real life is not acceptable. It makes me hope that you experience difficult consequences. No opinion is wrong. If you disagree with one, do so respectfully. Otherwise, you are a waste of space and disregard the effort your parents made to bring you into this world. Story 21. I constantly think about true freedom, a simple thought of picking up my belongings and leaving, taking a bus to a train to a plane to Africa or another country, and becoming a missing person in North America, just disappearing as I learn to live freely on a continent without as much technology or government surveillance. Just free. Story 22. I do not love or care for my mother's other son. He is not my brother, just someone I happen to live with. Brotherhood means more to me than what he makes it. Story 23. The amount of suffering I go through is overwhelming. I can't tell my mother because she would be crushed. My friends all have their own issues to deal with, and I would just feel guilty burdening them. I have a therapist, but we are working on so many things that I don't have a chance to fully address most of my struggles. The only thing keeping me from giving up on life is the fact that my mother is still alive, and I could never put her through that kind of suffering. I also do not want my dog to be sad because I am not around anymore. Basically, once they pass, I will probably end my own life, as I would not have much to live for after that. Story 24. Between August 2023 and March of this year, I attempted suicide at least 3 times. I tried overdosing on my seizure and sleeping medications mixed with alcohol. The most recent time was definitely the closest I have been to something actually happening. I was genuinely unsure if I would wake up in the morning. I have also blacked out drunk many times purely from depression. I do not want to tell anyone this because I do not want to be placed on a psychiatric hold. Story 25. How badly I want to die. On other forums and internet places, I act hostile and aloof because I believe that if everyone hates me, I will not be missed when I am gone. Story 26. I'm pretty sure I have borderline personality disorder. I'm a man, and no one really wants to hear about my difficulties. I've tried therapy several times, and each time it has been more harmful than healing. I recently recognized that the patterns in my life, relationships, and emotions really align with borderline personality disorder. I know I could get better if I had consistent, warm, empathetic help. But borderline personality disorder is so stigmatized that I'm not sure anyone is willing to give that to me. It's a catch-22. I find all of life's meaning in connection, but it is the most difficult thing for me to accomplish and maintain. I can do everything to fix myself, but without positive outcomes in my relationships, I can't change enough. I haven't been able to achieve positive relationships with therapists, and I don't know if I can take responsibility for those relationships failing. Therapists have been disengaged, inconsistent, invalidating, or even hostile. It wouldn't be fair, and I don't think I could trust anyone enough to share this with a friend. Story 27. Behind the confident and composed exterior of a female surgeon in her late 30s, living alone in a foreign country without any relatives nearby, traveling solo internationally and exploring new hobbies, I am just a scared and lonely little girl waiting to be heard, seen, and hugged. Story 28. I am asexual and aromantic. Telling people causes more problems at times than not telling them. However, not telling people creates its own set of problems as well. Cannot win. Story 29. I most likely will not tell you about real and urgent problems I have because you do not ask. And if you do not ask the right questions. A lesson I learned early on is do not bother to ask for help. No one will give any valuable help, not to me. I am now, thanks to therapy, at a point where I recognize this as a stupid and dangerous behavioral pattern, but I am not ready yet to change it. I still cannot. Story 30. Most of my marriage was perfect for us, but I am pretty certain most people would have a very strong and negative opinion about my age, our dynamic, his business, and in fact, our entire life together. Thank goodness it was before social media became popular. Story 31. I have a crush on someone I really connected with who, admittedly, can be inconsistent at texting and has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which I know can make communication difficult. I heard from him fairly consistently, then suddenly did not hear anymore. I waited a few days and tried again by sending a meme. I still have not heard back, but I know he has been online. It is obvious that I have been ghosted, yet I still have to see this person once a week because we share a common interest. It really hurts. I am neurodivergent as well, and any type of social rejection is a huge trigger for me, causing thoughts of suicide and worthlessness. I know it is not objectively a bad situation, but I am really upset. I have not told anyone because I am an adult and feel like a failure, while it seems this person is just living their life. I hate this. Story 32. The Blornif glided the Zaf, while the Quibble snoozed in the Frobble. A squibble of Blumpkin erupted from the grog, chasing after a flibbergibber. The Wibble wobbled, and the Quaff sighed, as the Florgnif blinked in the gloaming gloom. Story 33. I love my wife and children. I want my children to be old enough to remember me before I die. I also do not want my wife to be alone, but I do not care if I live or die. I am not suicidal at all. I do not care about life or death. Story 34. The reason I burned our bridge is that you endeared yourself to me beyond just being casual friends. It is not because I did not feel the same way. It is just that I know you can do better. Story 35. It scares me how patchy my memory is because of childhood abuse. I can remember a few dozen events, mostly negative, but I cannot recall core things like my grandmother's face, the couch in my childhood home, or my second-grade teacher's name. Additionally, I feel like as I get older, my short-term and recent memory are getting worse, along with my poor long-term memory. Story 36. I want to live far away from people. I don't enjoy the presence of others. I want it to be just me and my thoughts with no one else for miles. I would like to have a cabin in the woods where I don't have to do anything for anyone. Story 37. I am scared to be truly vulnerable with a significant other and date. My significant other is supposed to be my best friend. I had a best female friend with whom I never had any romantic interest, and I was vulnerable with her like you may be with a partner. After 2 years of friendship, she betrayed me by telling others what I said. She also tried to break the friendship between my best male friend and me, though we have remained friends for 10 years. Additionally, she attempted to find out more information about my family to fake a child abuse report to social services, hoping they would take my youngest sister away. Story 38. I am a vegetarian because ever since starting gastroesophageal reflux disease medication, eating meat has upset my stomach. Story 39. Instead of dating or finding hookups organically, I rely on sex workers. Mainly streetwalkers but occasionally escorts. They are relatively inexpensive where I live, and I get all my needs satisfied once we agree on boundaries and price. Only about 5 friends know I do this. The part that I keep to myself is that I mainly use them now because I have trust issues when it comes to dating. This is my escape from actively trying to date. I get more service for a cheaper price than a date. Another reason I rely on them is that it is a game to me. I want to see how reckless I can be. If they agree, I won't use a condom with them and I finish inside them. It gives me adrenaline and pride knowing they have my semen inside them all day and night. If they do not feel comfortable with that, I settle for oral sex and finish inside their mouth. Story 40. For a long time, I never told anyone about my anxiety disorder. To be honest, it is hard to even talk about it at length here, but it made me realize how little weight mental health is really given, especially if you have never had to go through anything like that. Yes, I am aware it is all in my head. Yes, I know it is all ridiculous. No, saying that out loud did not make it feel less real for me. I honestly felt like I had to have a dramatic, loud, and physical breakdown or kill myself in order to be taken seriously. I recently ran into a former close friend who was still cracking jokes about it. Story 41. In my experience, I had to perform 3 different versions of myself from when I was younger to middle school to satisfy everyone. My parents who would berate and hurt me often, the other kids who would mock me for the outbursts I had as a result, and the teachers who didn't care as long as I was quiet in class and scoring well on tests. Eventually, I resorted to daydreaming about people and worlds where I could be understood, which led to maladaptive daydreaming. Eventually, I decided I didn't want to split myself 3 ways anymore, but I think the damage has already been done for the most part. I am trying to understand what I am now as a result and trying to recombine myself to be more present in interactions and life in general. It is difficult knowing that I will never get the version of me before the performance is back, but I will reclaim any part of myself I can. I do not know if this makes any sense. I do not want to make excuses for how I am. I just want to find ways to move forward and bring those versions together again. Story 42. I don't belong anywhere, and the world I yearn for doesn't exist. I consider myself a creative person. I love making up stories, writing, painting, sculpting, watching movies, and looking at art. I have always felt out of place growing up, alone, always needing reassurance to feel like a normal human being. I struggled to recognize which mental experiences were normal and which were not. In social situations, I am mostly a bystander because I don't know what to say or how to react. I grew up being bullied a little because of my uniqueness. I often fantasize about running away with my partner to a completely different universe. It feels like I was built to see everything Earth and space have to offer. Yet I'm so restrained by a regular human mind and body that I will never visit different planets and galaxies. When I was severely depressed, I used to hope that in death I would turn back into stardust and be able to travel through space and time to see absolutely everything. I have always felt like I don't belong anywhere except there. Story 43. Sigh. Let go of the need to be understood. Some people are so attached to their frameworks that they will not understand even if you blend it for them into a smoothie. Story 44. I used to pretend to be asleep when my father came home drunk so I would not have to talk to him. He would stumble in, sit next to me, and sometimes just cry. I still do not know if I feel sad for him or scared of him. Story 45. I used to work 3 jobs just to afford rent. My manager's child once said, "I want to be poor when I grow up. It looks cozy." I laughed so hard. I almost cried. Story 46. I feel unworthy of love. To me, the possibility of having a girlfriend is equivalent to a fantasy. Story 47. I have a second point. The left and right wings are both wrong. We need a path forward, not contradicting solutions that lead in circles. America is arguing over a donkey and an elephant when they should be looking for the right solution to the most prevalent problems. Story 48. I am autistic and have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. People tend to say unkind things. I try to focus and put in effort, and I will succeed. I am halfway functional. I am a father of two and can maintain a job, but do not ask me to learn new skills or change something small, because my world will collapse. Story 49. I know my friends and family never really supported my career choice, even though it is my dream. I know it is a profession that does not earn a lot of money. If I ever let my bank account fall below a certain level, rather than burden them with my failures, I will take my own life. Story 50. I tap the side of my head with both hands. Not hard, just fast. Always when I am alone. I looked into it, and all I found is that it is a tick coping mechanism, but I don't have any ticks. I know I look crazy when I do it, though. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.